Florida State goes down to NC State. You guys are listening to First and Nole, Ariya Massoudi, Roberto Aguayo, Curt Weiler, here presented by the Osceola. Appreciate you guys listening here on Apple Pods, on Spotify, or on YouTube, anywhere else that you might like to get your favorite podcast. We hope that you're enjoying First and Nole this season. Roberto, former Florida State Grozo Award winner and Tampa Bay Buccaneer second-round draft pick with us all season long. Curt Weiler covering the team day in and day out. 19-17 to NC State. It felt like deja vu. It happens there all the freaking time. I really don't even know how bad I want to talk about this game for an hour, but we're going to do it. And we're going to be optimistic moving on to the Clemson game because that's a big opportunity for Florida State against the Tigers. Haven't beaten them since 2014. And we have a loaded show planned for you here this evening. I want to thank Alumni Hall, our sponsors of the Osceola. And of course, again, thank you guys for being with us all season long. And please do share this pod with your friends. But Noles drop a game by 2 points to a top 15 NC State team. And Curt, if I had told you going into it, Florida State would be up 17-3 at halftime. You were in that press box. What would you have told me last Monday if I had told you that would be the score at half?
I mean, it's tough. We the week before, I mean, we kind of saw the other side of it. Wake Forest game, we saw a second half performance and not much of a first half one, save that first drive. So we kind of saw the inverse of it. I mean, I would have said it's encouraging, but I would have said the game's far from over because I think I don't know. I needed to see 4 quarters from this team, and we didn't see that again. I mean, on the other side of it, I mean, credit to the defense for some of those situations they got put in. I mean, how many field goals they held NC State to. I know NC State's offense is not the best, especially once Devin Leary went down. But, yeah, I mean, I would have felt pretty good about 17-3 that Florida State was coming away with its first ranked road win in 6 years. But it was not to be.
Roberto, you were there on that night in 2012 when – like I said, deja vu. That's a tough night where your boys were up 16-0, and all of a sudden here comes NC State slowly but surely, and it's painful, and they don't look that good. They find a drive here, they find a drive there, and in the end, you guys go home and you're thinking, how did we lose that game? It felt a lot like that on Saturday night.
I mean, yeah, at halftime we were up 17-3, but I was like, you know what? It's a game of 4 quarters, and we have 2 quarters left. It's always a weird situation when you're playing in Raleigh, when you're playing at NC State, and look what happened. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but this FSU team looks good. I mean, we're a couple plays away. We're not playing bad football. NC State's a good team. You know, it could have been a lot worse of a loss, but I'm excited, for what we have going into Clemson and to make a statement, honestly. I mean, if we beat Clemson, that'll take these 2 losses away, and we just beat a number. What are they? Number 5 in the country?
Is it 4 now? Yeah.
Prime time, ABC, Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler. Like that just, to me, let's see what we did wrong. What can we do better? There's a lot obviously that you can get better at, but move this, behind us. And we got a big Clemson game that we got to get ready for and get excited. And, the next opponent up.
We are going to be optimistic on this pod. I promise you this will be a roller coaster. So hang with us as we take you. We're going to go low before we go high. I promise you, though, this will end with some optimism. Curt, you were in that press box on Saturday night. A good atmosphere, a weird day where the lights didn't turn on until about 7:20-ish, 7:30-ish, the lights finally pop back on. You're sitting there in bewilderment going, what just happened? Did NC State pay its light bill, its electric bill? Like, what are we doing? And the mistakes from Florida State. It was an omen. There would be mistakes all day, miscues all day. And just the team, it seemed like Curt couldn't get out of its own way in that second half, especially.
For sure. I mean, it's there across the board, just about any way you can look at. I mean, some in the first half even too. I mean, I think the drops started really in the first half. I think that's when they were kind of most rampant, and that's not something we've seen really at all this season. I mean, not at all to a worrisome degree, and it was everybody. It felt contagious. Whether Mike Gravel kind of said he doesn't think that kind of thing is contagious afterwards, but it sure felt like the drops, just one guy dropped, another guy dropped, and they were just passing it off to each other, the Butterfingers or what have you. And if they were all in key situations, I think Mike Gravel said today, 5 drops, all on 3rd or 4th down, all on chances to extend drives and failing to do so. Penalties, I mean, we can talk about, I think some of those penalties were bad. That's it's Jeff Flanagan. He doesn't have the best reputation, shall we say, in the ACC among the officials. But there were some penalties that are the kind of things you can't have, some of the personal foul type penalties that are just unavoidable and played a role in the result. And yeah, I mean, an offense that had, until that last drive, 1 first down in the second half. I mean, that NC State defense is good. It is not as good as Florida State's offense made them look over the final 30 minutes. I mean, it was just the second time we've really seen just a half where the offense can't do much of anything. The second week in a row we've seen that, and it's not a great trend going into the game against, I mean, the best defense you're going to face all year probably.
I would agree with you. And the drops were tough. You know, Malik McClain drops a touchdown pass. Johnny Wilson drops a couple of first downs. Pokey Wilson had, and 1 on 4th down. Pokey Wilson dropped a ball. It seemed like the guys are in their own head right now. And I guess, Roberto, we've talked about this a little bit on this pod, you know, with you and how to handle success. Do you feel like from your playing days and your experience, do you think this team is pressing a little bit with handling the success and trying to live up to that 4-0 start that they had?
I mean, it's, to be honest, it could be. I don't know. I'm not in there every day. I don't see what's, the ins and outs in the locker room. I mean, but to me, these 2 past games, it kind of reminds me of an NFL game where, especially this NC State game, where whoever makes the least amount of errors is going to come up with the win. These are both 2 good teams. In the NFL, you always have matchups where it's going to be, within 3 points, and whoever makes the least mistakes, both teams have great athletes. Both teams, have difference makers on the field. And it's just going to be who can make that one more catch than the other team, who can break on a bigger run, who can make a special teams play, and who can finish 4 quarters. And at the end of the day, if these guys play 10 times, it would probably be, a 6-4 or 7-3 or 5-5. It could go any way. And I think with these games, if we play a Duquesne or another team that's a Boston College, we can get by with making these errors, right? We can still win with making these errors. But when you play teams like this, a Wake Forest, a NC State, a Clemson, especially how they're playing right now, you have to minimize the errors, take advantage of your opportunities. And we just didn't take advantage enough of the opportunities that were in front of us.
You can kind of take the opposite spin on it and look at, I think these 3 in a row, the Wake, NC State, Clemson, I think are probably the 3 best teams on your schedule. Maybe you throw an LSU in there, but I'd say it's probably those 3 in order. And I think you can look at the other side of it and say, it was a mistake-laden game against Wake Forest, a differently mistake-laden game against NC State, and yet in both those games, you're in it in the 4th quarter. Dare I say the NC State game, you should have won. I'm by no means saying they should have settled for the field goal because there's a lot of nuance that goes into that, but it's for as bad a half as it was, there you were with a real chance to win it, and you couldn't get it done. So I would say, the other side of it is it's frustrating for sure, but it's also encouraging from a standpoint of, they're still learning how to win a bit. There's still a bit of that. They're especially still learning how to beat good teams, and that's a hard lesson to learn. But they in a far from perfect game, they probably still should have won.
Yeah, for sure. Because last year, I think you'd both agree Florida State wouldn't be able to compete with Wake or NC State the way that they have each of the last couple of weeks. This team is improved. And I think anybody who is too blinded by the disappointment of the last 2 weeks and losing, if you can't acknowledge that this program has improved, I think you got to take a step back, take a deep breath, and kind of picture this from a bird's eye view, so to speak, because 4-2 after 6 games, guys, if I had told you this in July and we had said after 6 games, FSU was going to be 4-2, guys, they were 0-4 last year, right? Like you would take this and you would say, give me a shot at Clemson. I don't know how you dice it up, how you cut it, how you slice it. I would take 4-2. Now, we experienced the NC State game, right? We were watching it. We know what we know that we didn't know back in July. And yes, it's disappointing because you should be 5-1, right? Where you were at, you should be 5-1. That is a fact. But there is still a lot of good that has come out from FSU's first 6 games. And I think, we have to be able to acknowledge that because there have been certain guys that have stepped up. The receiving corps had a really bad game against NC State, but they have been a big time pleasant surprise, in my opinion, on what they've been able to do this season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think you look at, you talk at the last 2 that you had a chance to win and couldn't get done for one way or another. I think the other side of that, though, you can't ignore you won an LSU game that was a bit of a toss-up. You won a Louisville game that was a bit of a toss-up. I feel like you're kind of 50-50 in those 50-50 games this year. So I don't think it's like a worrisome trend by any means of like they can't finish games. It's just they didn't finish these games against really good teams. But yeah, I think the interesting thing I'm keeping an eye on kind of with the receivers is they've been great, like you said. I mean, they were going into that game the best in the country, the best receiving grade in the country by Pro Football Focus. Was this an anomaly? Or is this the beginning of maybe a stretch of games that they become closer to what we thought they were going to be?
Maybe, but Berto, like they're playing well for most part, right? Wilson's been a major upgrade. Micah Pittman's been a major upgrade. Wilson has played really well at times this season. McClain continues to show you flashes of a kid that has a chance to be special one day in Garnet and Gold. But offensively, they're still doing some nice things. And in that first half, it felt like they were finding some answers and solutions against a really good defense in NC State.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way we're talking about him right now. Like 2 years ago, we would have been happy with a game like this. We would have been like, oh my gosh, we played so good. Right now, we're talking about all the things that we could have done. Like, we could have beat this team, by 10 points or more, right? If we would have made the right, catches, the right, the right routes or whatever we needed to do. But the expectations are there. This team, can win in big stages. We beat LSU. This team can beat a Wake Forest team, a NC State team. Yeah, they made a couple errors, but I think with what I've been seeing with the tweets, with the camaraderie that these guys have, that they're ride or die. We love this team. We've seen Micah Pittman say it, on Twitter. We've seen Jordan Travis say, this is my team. I think the bond is starting to, get closer and closer. And these guys know what they're capable of doing. They've just been a couple plays away. And to be honest, I'm excited. This team, this is going to be a chance for them to make a statement against number 4 Clemson. And then you got, to be honest, cupcake teams, Georgia Tech, Miami, and then the next best team is Syracuse. So if we get through this, come out, 5-2 for the rest of the season, I mean, we could honestly go 10-2. I mean, Florida's not playing well. I mean, the Raging Cajuns, that's, so, but I think, this
is the last, a really, really good team left in your schedule. It's not to say you're going to win all the rest of them, but you have a good chance in games against Miami, against Florida, against Georgia Tech, even if Georgia Tech's been a little feisty lately. I mean, this is the last. So I'll ask y'all. I want to see if y'all know this because I looked it up for a story today. Do you guess the spread when the game didn't get played 2 years ago when Clemson was coming here, the game that got canceled because Clemson brought the positive COVID player? Yes. What was the spread for that game?
I don't remember. What was it?
Let's see. 13.5.
Yes,
17. 17.5.
35.
Oh my God.
It was 35 points. And Clemson probably would have come. I mean, that's how far they've come. We'll talk about it in a little bit. The spread's 3.5 points.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a little about Clemson. Clemson had Trevor Lawrence on that team, and they've I think they're still good. I think there are questions if they are as good as they were then or if they're starting to regress a little. But I think it's more about Florida State.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like we should talk special teams because there was a lot of special teams, shall we say, in that game.
I mean, I think, Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think the special teams was an area in which you kind of saw the dichotomy of the season, right? I mean, it was You saw some good. Ryan Fitzgerald bounces back. You saw some not so good, but it felt like the roles reversed almost. Mastromano looks confused on that one play where the guy blitzes off the edge and he doesn't know when he passes the line of scrimmage. And the guy who'd been struggling, Ryan Fitzgerald, ends up, Roberto, making one of the biggest kicks, I think, of his career. And I'm sure you're going to allude to it too. I mean, that's huge just for him going forward.
Oh yeah. If there's anything good that we can take out of this game is Ryan getting back on his feet, crushing that long field goal before half and just seeing the team get around him. I mean, I was around people and they said, I mean, this is what we love to see. And you can just tell they're behind him and they're cheering him on. And that's good. Your confidence can be flipped just like that. And he made all his extra points. And what really got me excited was, I don't know if you remember that punt return where Micah Pittman was, he's about to catch it. And there was a receiver. It was Pokey Wilson, right? That went to the corner, caught it and returned it. I mean, that was good play by the special teams coach just to call that play. I honestly was kind of like, oh man, we should save that for Clemson. But now Clemson has to scheme that and be cautious on when their punting unit is out there. So a lot of good things from the punt return and the field goal unit. Mastromano, had that one where he crossed the line of scrimmage on that punt. It's tough. He saw a blocker come in. He was thinking about running it. It's just split second. But those are the things you don't think about. I don't think you really coached. You don't really get coached that in college. In the NFL, those are the things that you're aware of as a punting unit. Where is the line of scrimmage? Because if I do have to, run around, I got to make sure I kick it before I pass that line of scrimmage. If not, I'm going to get called a penalty. So those are the little mistakes right there. We don't make that mistake. We might be in a little better spot. But overall, I think where we needed to improve, we did. And with Ryan coming off that big field goal, he said he's been doing great in practice. He just had to translate it to the game. He did it then. I mean, he split the upper. You couldn't have a better kick. So I'm excited that, that was kind of, if anything, we fixed that and just moving forward into Clemson. With our field goal kicker coming off a make.
I was lamenting to Bob Ferrante, managing editor of the Osceola, walking my car after the game, and then I tweeted it today. I talked about it, what a shame that punt return decoy is going to be lost to history. Where imagine if the Mastromano play hadn't happened, or if Jordan hadn't thrown the pick right after the Mastromano play, they won 17-16. And if that won them the game, if that was the difference, imagine how that would be remembered. And Ryan's kick, and the celebration was great. The team, you could tell they know what he has been going through, and it was nice to see kind of the response from them on that. But yeah, it's a shame that play is just going to get lost to FSU history.
Hey, maybe he has another one in his bag of tricks. You never know. But that one was cool. Yeah.
So they talked about it today. It's interesting. John Papuchis, the special teams coordinator, talked about today. He's like, that's the kind of thing, because they did it in practice last week. We saw it and we were like, I'm not sure how you'd use that in a game. And they kind of were working on it a little last week, because he said that we kind of got an inclination that NC State was a team we could pull it off against, that they sometimes are undisciplined with tracking kicks. And it worked to perfection. And Mike Gravel called it one of his favorite plays of the game, and I'm inclined to agree with him.
Love it.
So there's a lot of good guys, and there's things that we have to be able to say, in the midst of our pain, that this team is doing some things right. I thought Jordan Travis's legs finally returned. He looked healthier than he has in a couple weeks. The 71-yard run that he hit. He didn't quite have that extra gear, because I think healthy Jordan Travis burns that for a touchdown. Because we've seen that extra gear when Travis gets in the open field, and it's very hard for people to track him down. But it was good to see him kind of get back to it. I would like to see Florida State scheme more for him in the run game. I have a feeling you're going to have to against Clemson, just because of the way Clemson's front seven and D line is. But Curt, it was good to see Jordan become that dual threat yet again.
I agree with you. And I think you say that. I think they gave him more opportunities. I think they ran a few more read options that he gave him. And I remember until that last drive, the one first down they had in the second half was a read option keeper that he kept it, and I think picked up 14 or so yards down the left sideline. So, I mean, I think there were more opportunities, and he's just not always taking them. And I mean, but you're right. I mean, you saw how the linebackers totally crashed on the running back on that play, and that just they had no. I mean, NC State hadn't played Jordan Travis. He missed the 2020 game because of he was hurt, and he missed last year's game because when that team bug was going around. But yeah, I mean, I think they may have underestimated his athleticism, not having played him before. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on Clemson. I mean, I think Clemson's defense, especially the front four, is really impactful. But Jordan's athleticism can be a way to negate that. We saw some of that last year a little bit.
It is too, Roberto, a double-edged sword, though, when you talk about a running quarterback pretty much taking the leash off and allowing him to kind of be free, because on one end, you do need his legs. On the other end, if he takes a hard hit against, because I mean, guys, NC State was physical. Like those linebackers are ridiculously good. They'll be playing on Sundays. You can't just let a quarterback like that get hit, right? Because then he's out and Jordan's injury history, he's out, right? So you've got to be able to kind of push and pull, so to speak, and kind of plan that and scheme that out for a guy like that.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. You said it. Couldn't have said it any better. When you stop him in the air, you know, he's going to have to run. And sometimes, like, you know, maybe the coach is like, hey, we don't want you to run as much. And sometimes when he runs, I'm like, get down. You know, you don't want to see – you see a lot of guys, and recently have been getting hurt going on the slide and getting just rocked. I saw the I want to say the Purdue quarterback before earlier during the day just get rocked, and you're just like, man, you try to slide. It's just like, get down, because, you know, you're our guy, you're our starter. You know, guys are wanting to take your head off when you get out of the pocket. But I think he's done well both in the air and on the run. I think, you know, getting a steady rhythm and, you know, taking advantages of you know, when the receivers, when the ball touches their fingers, you know, they got to catch it. So we'll see.
It's got to be something too Florida State implements, I think, against some of the better teams on their schedule remaining, right? Like Curt and I just said it, Clemson's going to have to be a game that, if you want to have rushing success, Clemson has shut down so many rushing attacks this season from just their base formations that you need to have some wrinkles in. Maybe a Miami, maybe against Florida, Syracuse, who I think's defense is underrated, is pretty good team. There's got to be teams on your schedule where you do allow him a little bit more freedom and maybe work it into the game plan for him to impact the game on the ground. But at the same time, he has improved as a pocket passer too, right? Yeah. Like, he didn't have his best game, I didn't think, through the air against NC State. A lot of that was, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, NC State did a good job of winning first and second down, and especially in the second half, and you force Travis into third and long, and you're able to drop more guys into coverage. And NC State runs a 3-3-5. Am I right, Curt? So they naturally have more DBs on the field.
Yes. And yeah, you're right in that they definitely were daring him to kind of hit tight windows, and they got FSU in good kind of situations for them in third downs. I think FSU's average third down distance in the game was like 8.7 yards. I want to say, I looked it up earlier today. And I mean, yeah, it looked like it. It felt like a lot of third and longs. It didn't feel like a ton of third and shorts. I mean, FSU was 5 of 13 on third down despite that, which is not bad. And I mean, like we said, a few of those were drops where they're probably converting over 50% if there weren't for the drops. The thing with Clemson too, I mean, we can talk about it more in a second. Jordan's athleticism can help, especially in extending plays, because he'll be under pressure. Clemson would, against like good offensive lines, Clemson would get pressure. So against the Florida State line that there are some questions about, they'll get pressure. But he's going to have to beat him with his arm. It will need to be a better passing game, because Clemson allows, I think, 2.2 yards a carry. Yeah. I think it's like second best in the country behind James Madison.
And with all their whole defense back, and Brian Breesy.
Yeah, they're nasty guys. Like, that front line has multiple NFL guys. I mean, it's first round, second round picks.
Yeah.
Miles Murphy's underrated on that line.
And it's entirely possible Florida State's going to be without its best running back, or at least its most productive running back this season. Because I know Mike Norvell today was talking about, he's going to do everything in his power to get back. And about that time, Trayshawn Ward posted a picture on Instagram of him in a hospital bed. with like one of those like caps on. I was kind of like, I mean, Mike can say that, and I'm sure it's true, but those two don't really seem to align of like, we hope we can get him back this week with he's getting some kind of work or procedure or something done today.
I mean, everything.
Hope for the best.
I mean, he didn't lie, right? He said he's going to do everything he can. He just didn't say there's not a whole hell of a lot that he can do.
I'm sure Trayshawn Ward wants to play Saturday.
He didn't lie. Sure it's called a half truth, Kurt. Yeah. You never told a half truth.
Yeah. It's a politically correct answer. It's like, yes.
I'm sure Fabian Lovett did everything in his power to get back for the last 4 games. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like the friend you don't want to hang out with on one night. You're like, I didn't lie to you. I just told you half the truth as to why I didn't want to come out.
I stretched the truth.
I just stretched it. It's fine. It's fine. So, yeah, I will say on a more serious note, that was heartbreaking to see Trayshawn go down. I mean, what a run by him against a good front, against a good defense. I thought FSU had some great rushing success in that first half. And we can talk about this if you guys want, because I know we're all thinking it. I don't know what injury bug has decided to find Florida State this season. It is truly ridiculous. And I mean, save me the whole every team has injuries. It's getting to a point where it's kind of depressing. Like every game, especially NC State, it felt like one every drive. Like this drive had to stop so that somebody could get checked on. I mean, it's piling up, boys.
You hate to see it. Sometimes it's just like that. Yeah.
There's a world where we'll see if Fabian Lovett can get back. He was definitely closer. He wasn't in the boot anymore. He didn't have that cane he's been using anymore when he was there at NC State on Saturday. Maybe he could get back. That would be a big deal because we'll see what's up with Robert Cooper. I mean, Mike Riddle didn't say much today, but Robert Cooper, I think, only played 3 plays and then went out with an injury and didn't return. And, I mean, if you're without both your starting defensive tackles against Clemson, not that Clemson offensive line is great, but, yeah, it's it'll be worth monitoring. I feel like before moving fully into Clemson, we kind of have to talk about the end of the game, right?
We will. I'm not done with the injuries because it still bothers me that, I mean, Bless Harris is out for the year. Lyles doesn't even get a chance to play in a game. You're going to maybe be out Cooper and Lovett against Clemson. 2 receivers, Ja'Kai Douglas and Winston Wright, haven't even suited up this season for you. Jordan's had to miss portions of games, and Jared Verse goes down. It's like, what in the world is going on? And
dude, Ja'Kai Douglas is on the depth chart for the first time.
He is. He seems like he's close to a return.
Yeah.
I think he's close. He's been doing more and more because, he got hurt in the preseason. I mean, I think I saw someone today say, Roberto, you'll appreciate this, that feels like the last few seasons of injury luck, maybe this one in particular, is a bit of a penance for how much good injury luck there was in 2013. Yeah.
It's we didn't really have that many guys injured in 2013. Now that I think about it.
Wait, the last 5 years wasn't penance for what happened in 2013. Like, wait, what, injury luck is? I thought each of the last 5 years is what we were paying back.
The main injury I can think of in 2013 was Tyler Hunter, and didn't you replace him with Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah.
So, I mean, nothing against Tyler Hunter, but that's probably an upgrade in the long run.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, Tyler Hunter was great. Senior. Veteran safety, and Jalen was just a young buck, but he went in there and nothing. We didn't lose anyone. So it's when your backups are as good as your starters sometimes.
Yeah, but this team, guys, that the difference for you that year, Roberto, if you guys got hurt like that, is that you had quality depth. Florida State's program right now is not at a point. It's still building up to having guys in the 2 and 3 deep.
Exactly. Yeah.
You still need your surface level, your starters all there to compete. Yeah. And who knows what FSU's record is if everyone's healthy.
I think that's kind of a next year thing. I feel like this is kind of a 2012 year where before that, 2011, did we go to a bowl game? No.
We went to Champs Bowl.
We did Champs Bowl. Yeah.
That was the Notre Dame.
But it was a chance bowl, and then in 2010.
Do you remember that offensive line? 2011, 5 new kids started against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It was 5 young guys, and that paved the way for all those boys to be who they became.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that next year we won the Orange Bowl. We were in New Year's Six Bowl, and then boom, the next year we mess around and win a national championship.
You are seeing a bit of the benefits. It's not. Who knows if it's going to pay off to the same degree?
Yeah.
But I think you are seeing because of because of some of that, I mean, I think you're seeing a Josh Farmer who's really, I think, stepped up the last few weeks as a young defensive tackle. And Patrick Payton has really impressed me. I mean, that's been maybe the biggest surprise for me on the entire team, just how he's still probably got some more weight he could add before he's like pushing for a starting job next year. But it just has a nose for the ball. Like, he's just like that intangible playmaker that, like, it's hard to be able to tell who is that guy, like, especially if you're just watching like highlight tape where everybody just shows their good plays. But he's really impressed me. I think AZ starting to Azaria Thomas starting to see the field a little more. And so I think you are seeing some guys take advantage of opportunities and really shine in moments.
Yeah, Farmer
through
and
those
Ray.
injuries.
Yeah, Farmer, Ray,
Yeah.
Peyton, guys who are getting opportunities. It's not all bad. You're right, Curt. And I think the future of the program is going to benefit because of it. But also, while it's happening in the heat of battle, it kind of sucks because FSU could be 6-0. Maybe, you know, and no one's guaranteeing anything, obviously. But
I don't think either Wake Forest or NC State have nearly as much success if Fabian Levitt's in there.
I think
no
I agree
offense
with you.
to anyone else that subbed in, but I think, I mean, and it's Robert Cooper is a space eater. He is not a like huge disruptor like Fabian Levitt is. I think Fabian Levitt would have blown up the slow mesh, and I think Fabian Levitt would have shut down a lot of what NC State was trying to do there. So it's a tough break.
And Cooper and Lovett pair well with each other, right?
Yes,
like
agreed.
Cooper allows Lovett to be who he is, and because Lovett's in there causing havoc, it can help Cooper kind of do what he does too. But yeah, injuries are tough. It reminds me a lot, Curt, of 2010 season. Do you remember FSU did end up going like 10-4 that year? They won the Peach Bowl, I think, against South Carolina. But there were some losses in there to, I think, NC State, North Carolina, that were like excruciating games and losses that a team that could compete at that level couldn't finish against some of these teams at that level. And so maybe these are the growing pains that are required when you are trying to climb, so to speak, to use a Mike Norvellism.
Yeah, was that the year? Did Ponder go down and EJ had to replace him?
It was. And I think I remember the losses. One was NC State, one was UNC.
Those were back-to-back, yes.
Virginia Tech in the ACC title game. EJ threw for like 300 yards, but they still lost to Tyrod Taylor. And what was the final loss? You'll have to remind me.
The first loss was at Oklahoma, where they were just not ready for that game. That was a like.
That was a program you weren't ready to be on that field.
Yep. Exactly. That was
47-17. 2011. Roberto, remember 2011? They almost, I don't say they almost beat Oklahoma, but they were in the game deep in the fourth quarter. And it was like the first time people were like, all right, FSU has dudes that can play at that elite level. And you were like, here comes FSU as a program. And so we're looking for that game, I think, right now. And maybe it's Clemson. Maybe this is the game where you go, all right, Noles have some dudes that are shining, and maybe FSU isn't as far away as some people had thought coming into the year. I do want to let's touch on what Curt said about the end of the game, because I am really interested to hear both of your thoughts. Noles are driving. They're down 2. Ryan Fitzgerald had made a 47-yarder. Some things go your way, right? Big play to Johnny Wilson. You get the targeting on Trey Benson, moves you up the field, and you're at, I think, the 22-yard line with 38 seconds left and all 3 timeouts. Curt, I'll start with you, and then Roberto just jump in right after Curt. Did you like the call to kind of be aggressive and go for a touchdown there, or how would you have played it otherwise?
I liked the decision to be aggressive. The play call and the decision within the play call, maybe we can discuss in a more nuanced way, because that one, I mean, but the thing is, yes, Ryan Fitzgerald made the kick. Yes, he made both his extra points earlier in the game. That does not mean, I mean, you can't ignore all the struggles of the season because he'd had a good day. He's still been fairly consistent. If you'd ended up in a 4th down situation where you didn't pick up a first down, say on that third and 1 run, if you got stuffed, you trot out Ryan probably. But you cannot play for the field goal given what Ryan's done. I had a bunch of people in my mentions talking about, well, I would have been more like happier if they just missed a field goal and lost that way instead of like that. It's like, you are lying, because you don't have to actually face that reality. Like if he had settled for the field goal and Ryan had missed it, you would have lost your minds, and you would have worried about Mike, because you would have said, like, you've got to, like, it would have been a great moment for Ryan, but I worry what failing in that moment would have done for Ryan by the same notion, So it's unfortunate the way it played out to say the least. And as we can break down the play a little bit, I'm interested to hear what Roberto has to say.
I mean, the decision-making of a head coach, like these are the things that you got to, all that has to be in your mind when you make the play call, the play calls and the decisions you make, especially, the last 40 seconds of a game. I mean, yeah, the ball was on the 22. It's 2nd and 8. We have all 3 timeouts. We've been driving the ball from inside our own 10, I believe. And when Jordan Travis makes his pass, I mean, he's looking that way the whole time. So I think he wanted to go there. I mean, that was his guy. Pittman was his guy. He had the defender had already defended it, so he knew, what was coming. It was just a wrong turn. We can talk about it, how it was a wrong decision, but if he catches it, it's the right decision. I think, personally, I think we still try to get a little bit more, a 22 ball on the 22 is a 40-yarder. Ryan had made one further than that. I think we try to get at least like 5 more yards where it's a 3rd and 2 and or 3rd and 3. And then we try to, get the first down. If we don't get it, then we call timeout and we make a decision of, do we want to go for it? It's not like we didn't have the timeouts and we were trying to, go for the game. I mean, hindsight 2020, we can talk all about it, but I think if we would have tried to get a little bit more yards, maybe let a receiver make a play down the field and trying to gain some yards, get a first down. We're inside the 15. I think inside the 15, it's comfortable. I think I think I would go up to Ryan or I would go up to JP and say, hey, how does he feel? Or what to help that the decision where it's like, hey man, what comfortably, I think you say that at the beginning of the drive, comfortably, where do you need to be where you think you have at least an 80% chance of making it? And I would say I would go, if he missed it at the end, I would say he told me 80%. I would have went with that. You want it right, middle, left. We have all 3 timeouts. I trust my offense. We're driving it down the field. And then you give him a shot. I mean, Jordan Travis went for the touchdown. It's unfortunate the way to lose like that. It's just like we were driving the whole way. We could have kept it going. We could have got inside. But, hey, man, that's football. That's why we watch it. It's fun. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah, of course the kicker feels that way. Of course the kicker wanted the guy to get the field goal.
Well, I was about to ask, and it's funny because Roberto, remember last week, I think both of us said there would be a game where Ryan Fitzgerald's going to be called upon because that's how this game goes.
Yeah.
I think it was last episode. And we said, I didn't know it would be the very next game. I'd be lying to you if I told you we thought it would be a few days later. Yeah. But I still feel like there's going to be a moment where Ryan Fitzgerald has to hit something late.
Oh yeah. I didn't want to say he's back on that long one before half. That's a little bit bad, but like there's going to be like if he would have made one at the end of this game, that's when it would have been like he's back 2 for 2 with a game winner.
I'd have sent you about 37 gifts in a row.
Let's go. Yeah,
out of curiosity,
was an encouraging sign is what I would call it, like an encouraging sign. We'll see what he does this week. Maybe he gets the chance this week.
And it wasn't like he hit it kind of left, kind of right.
It was.
It was a monster kick. It was. I don't know if y'all watched Justin Tucker's interview on Sunday Night Football after he made the game winner against Cincinnati. If you haven't, and I'm not just telling Roberto and Curt, I'm telling those of you listening, it is one of the funniest things I have ever listened to. But Justin Tucker goes in depth on like what the holder has to do, how he goes in mentally, how he calms himself. It is really good stuff.
Didn't he call himself a system kicker?
He goes, I don't even think at that point, I'm just a system. It was hilarious, guys. Like it's worth your time. And kickers have the best personalities on the football team. I think like Roberto will agree. Like there are different personalities in each position group, and kickers are all unique in their own way. But Justin Tucker is worth your time. Roberto, you said something earlier that kind of made me think, is that a part of the normal conversation between a coach and a kicker, or the special teams coach and the kicker, to come up to you and ask, how are you feeling on a moment like that? And can you take us through like that actual relationship and conversation that happens?
I mean, to me, the relationship has to be there between your coach, not only your special teams coach, but your head coach as well. To me, I'm a big communication guy. I like to let them know how I'm feeling, and, so they know, and I want to let them know what they're thinking, So before the games, I would warm up both ways, and my job is to see the conditions. At Doak, I already knew where the wind was coming from, usually what my range was. It was just dependent on that day of what, is it going to be rainy? Is it going to be more windy? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Whatever. But it'd be more on away games where I would go out, you kick in, on the other opponent's side, you feel it out. And when you come back in, the first office you go to, and Coach Fisher was waiting for us, is for me and Kaysen. And he would say, which way do you want to kick off? Because Coach Fisher was always a kickoff guy, always heads, and always we want to defer to the second half. So if we won the toss, yeah.
He would tell you what to call? He wouldn't let you choose heads or tails?
No, it was, I'm pretty sure he would always say, like, every time
he doesn't make the call, like he's not there. He would tell the player, like, you have to call heads.
Every time I heard him say, I think he was a head, like a.
Does that surprise anybody?
Are you
Jimbo Fisher.
You're shocked
Tails
Jimbo Fisher
fails.
was micromanaging the coin toss?
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's
Roberto.
the least surprising thing I've ever heard. Berto, back to you. We're sorry.
So we won the toss. It would be deferred to the second half. And I would always be watching it because I knew which way I was going to kick off, because I would tell Coach Fisher, I want to kick off this way. I always kicked off where the wind was blowing, because wind can always change. So if the wind's blowing in one direction, I'm kicking that way, because that gives me my momentum, right? If we kick off and then we're going down on offense and I got a long field goal, I know I have the wind behind my back. It gives me more confidence. Do it that way, right? And then he would always say, okay, in this direction, how far are you? And I would say 35-yard line. 35-yard line ends up being a 53-yarder, or vice versa. I'm good from the 40, or I'm good from 30. And I'd give them both directions. And then, for example, a drive like that, my special teams coach would come up to me, because obviously they're speaking in the headsets, and he would say, what's Roberto's range? What is he like? Where does he want it? Special teams coach comes up to me and says, what's your range right now with the conditions right now? I know you told them 35 in the beginning of the game, but now it's, 3.5 hours later. But it could change. It's colder. It's, more wind. It's less wind. Adrenaline, right? You feel or have you missed one or two where your confidence is a little shaky? Like, I would say, coach, comfortably, for example, comfortably 35, but I can get it there from 38. So he knew, okay, if I get it 35 and in, he's comfortable with that. If I get it to the 38 or 39, he can still get it there, but it's a little, you know what I mean? It's like, that was my communication, where like, you get it within 5 yards of that, I can get it there, but not a high percentage chance. If you get it inside of that, I'm comfortable. And when he knew that, boom, if we get it in there, it's field goal all the way. So those are the little communications that you have with your coaches, and that's what makes you a great team. You knew when Coach Fisher was going to send you out there, and you knew when you weren't going to go out there.
So what was interesting to me, Ryan wasn't like, I guess I don't know like how often that happens on the sidelines of college games next to NFL. Ryan wasn't warming up at all. Watching him on the sidelines. At one point, we all started in the press box, kind of started to be like, oh, like they're in this range now where it might come down to a kick that looks like it might be what happens. And he was like doing a little hopping around on the sideline. But like if there was a net down there, he was not kicking into it to warm up.
Well, that's what I was wondering too, because I was wondering, okay, the cameras like are about to come on him. Now being in the media, get the camera on Ryan, get the camera on 88.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want to see, where you pull the stat, he's has him, if you get him in field goal range. They had the field goal line, they passed the field goal range line, and they never showed him, maybe because he wasn't kicking. I don't know. You never know what really was going on internally. Maybe, Coach Norvell was going for the win the whole time. I don't know. Or maybe he just didn't want to kick in the net. He felt warm.
Could have been. He just felt good. Like he felt good about some of his kicks.
To me, in that situation, I kicked 2. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Because it's like, I'm already here. There's no, I'm not going to get any better. So I just hit 2 to warm, and I take maybe 2 dry swings, and I'm good to go. That's it. Just me hitting 4 more in the net isn't going to make me better. And those guys that kick more and more, I mean, everyone has their own ritual. Kickers are different. Everyone has their own rhythm. Maybe you got to hit 5, you got to get it right, whatever. To me, it was always 1, 2, boom, I'm out. I can't think about it more. I can't be like, oh, I hit that a little bit. Oh, I need to hit another one. No. It's 2, boom, in, out. We're ready to go.
Because at that point, you're just calming your mind, right? You're starting the process of mentally getting yourself ready for the kick.
Well, to me, I would always stand on the opposite side, further away from the uprights, because when you walked out on the field, they looked a lot closer, right? You stay away from the chaos happening down on that side of the field. I like to be, over here by myself, and we knew that, Kaysen and Phil, or Kaysen and Gabbard would be over there towards the line of scrimmage or wherever they had to run, and I was a little bit behind because, I would run to my spot, which was 7.5 yards behind the snapper, or where the line of scrimmage was. And that gave me time, and I was good. And Kaysen, got everyone lined up. He was looking at the play clock. I was picking my spot. That's all I'm worried about. Good to go. Head nod. And it all happened so quick. So I would have loved to see him get a shot. That's what you want to see. As a kicker, you want that opportunity. Miss, the way you've had it, you want it to have it. I mean, every kicker wants to have it, whether you miss or make it. I made it, but you want that opportunity. When you don't want the opportunity, that means you shouldn't even be on the field. So
my gut says too that one play that Florida State took the shot at the end zone was the one play they were going to take the shot at the end zone. I do believe if it had gotten to 3rd and 8, Florida State's setting up with a little draw play or something to get it to the middle of the field for Fitzgerald. It was the one chance, right? I think it was the one play. I was telling my buddy that I was watching the game with, I would take a shot at some point on this drive. I think I was thinking that Johnny Wilson would be the intended target because there was a couple times there in the second half. I say Clemson, but NC State was playing single man coverage with no high safety help. They were playing cover 1 on the backside. So I thought that's where naturally you would throw the ball if you did it was to Wilson. They went for Micah. Micah scored a touchdown on that play on a similar call earlier in the game, and he scored a touchdown on that play before, I think, against Wake Forest. And they've called similar plays for Micah to make that play. Yeah. So I know people are pissed. Curt, people on our message boards are livid about it. I mean, armchair quarterback's easy. It really, really is. Hindsight's 2020.
Revisionist history is a hell of a thing.
It is. And like you said, right? Like if he goes up there and he misses, people are going to be saying things like, what, he makes one field goal and all of a sudden you have the confidence of the world to be conservative. Like Jimbo, he's conservative. That's literally how this goes. And
no matter what you do, someone's always going to say, someone's always going to talk smack. So
it is what it is, guys. Like the NC State kid made a play. Give him credit. That was a nice off-man coverage. He read it. He rerouted Micah, and he made a play. They've got kids on scholarship too. It's not just always what you do wrong.
Yep.
NC State right now, their fan base and their writers and their media are going, that kid made one of the best plays of the season and maybe the moment of his career. So whatever. We move on. Let's talk about Clemson because another opportunity awaits. It's the opportunity we've all wanted. If you poll the fan base, I think there would be a decent number that would tell you I'd rather beat Clemson this year than Miami and Florida. I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm just saying there is a faction of this fan base that one thinks Clemson's a rival. They do treat Clemson like a rival. And losing how many years in a row now since 2014 has kind of stuck in the craw.
Yep. Lost
what is that?
7 games.
7? Is it 7? And they didn't play one season because of the COVID. Yeah. So this is a big one, guys. This is a big one. 7:30, as Roberto told you, you got Fowler and Herb Street in the booth, ABC, prime time, Tallahassee. This is what Doak was made for, were these games. Roberto, you played in them time and time again. Take me through. We'll start with you, and then, Curt, I've got a question for you as well. But, Roberto, take me through what Clemson week was like for your football program.
I mean, if you're not getting ready for Clemson, that's our rival in the ACC. I mean, especially when I was there, that was a team to beat. And you want to see Clemson and FSU always at the top. It just makes college football better. But Clemson has been at the top for a long time. I mean, if we would have played that game, that COVID game, we would have lost. We would have been down 8. And it kind of reminds me of the game before I was there when Dustin hit that 55-yard game winner. I don't know what Clemson was ranked, but we ended up winning in Doak. That was a huge win. And the next year we played in the national championship year. We played. That was the game. Or no. That wasn't. That was 2 years later. But anyways, it was 3-4. We ended up going up there, beating them, and by a lot. But I mean, if these guys aren't excited, yes, we've lost the last 2, but we played 2 good teams. We played really good football. It's not like we're bad. We're a bad team. We lost by a lot. It's prime time, 7:30. I'm going to be out there. My buddies are going to be up there. It's going to be a sight to see. The stadium's going to be as loud as, I don't know, we probably have heard it in a long time. So it's going to be a tough place to play for Clemson. It's going to be loud. I think we have a chance to beat them. I mean, let's go little betting lines to see where Vegas has put them. And this is from my insider. So the line 24 hours ago, it opened up as Florida State +5. It is now plus Florida State +3.5. And more early in the week, more bets are. So 100% of the bets, 87% of the tickets placed are on Clemson. And that has 57% of the money, as opposed to 13% on FSU, which makes up 43% of the money. Now, for my gamblers out there, that's a lot bigger bets coming in for FSU early in the week. So, for the non-bettors, non-gamblers out there, there's a lot of smaller bets going on Clemson. $10, for example, $10, $20 bets going on Clemson, but there's $50, $60 bets going on FSU. So it's still early in the week, but there's a lot of sharp bets being placed on FSU. So you always bet, Vegas always wins. So there's something, everything we see on Twitter is like, why is Clemson coming in with a +3.5, or why is FSU coming in with a +3.5? Like, shouldn't this be more? Like, they're the number 4 team in the country versus an unranked Florida State team. That goes to show that, Vegas, and we'll have to see till the end of the week, right? When more bettors start placing Thursday, Friday. But from what it looks now, I would take the spread. I would take FSU. And if I would take it personally, I would buy the hook, buy that extra 0.5 to take it to 4. And if we lose by 4, we push it, and a push is always a win. So those are my betting takes for this week. I love it. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. So going to be a great environment. I'm excited. I'll be there. It's going to be one for the books, I think.
Should we implement a new segment on this show called Berto's Bets?
Berto's Bets. Ooh, I like
the
that.
Sharp.
Yeah.
We got the Sharp over here.
Yeah.
Come on now. Curt, for Florida State, what would a win mean for the program?
I think it would mean a lot. I think, looking purely at Mike Norvell, it would be the most impressive win of his tenure. I think obviously the top 5 win over North Carolina in 2020, but this one would mean more. I think it would mean something personally to him too. I think it's pretty clear he didn't take that 2020, how that played out in the aftermath of that, and how much Dabo kept talking about that very well. I think he was not too happy about that whole situation. And you look at last year, I think that was not the best Clemson team, but last year they're up there in the final minutes with a real chance to win and couldn't finish the drill. And Clemson responded after the Jermaine Johnson strip sack with a touchdown drive to win. But it'll mean a lot to Mike Norvell. I think it would mean a lot to these players. You look at the last 2 weeks; those have probably cost you your chance at winning the ACC. Which, to be fair, that was never really the goal coming into the year. Players would tell you that's the goal every year, but it was not a realistic goal for this team this year. But I think it would be, snapping that losing streak against Clemson, like you snapped your Miami losing streak last year, like you're looking to snap a not as long Florida losing streak this year. It's just kind of reestablishing yourself in those conversations. It puts you back on Clemson's radar because Clemson's, I'm sure, taking Florida State seriously, but I think they also, there are probably some players still who are on that team in, what was that 2018 team where they absolutely clowned Florida State in Tallahassee, the good day to read a book. The guy got caught read a book that game.
Good day to read a book. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. My friend Tashawn, who was with the Athletic at the time, wrote that story.
Oh
but yeah, it would mean a great deal all to the program, to the team, to the fan base. I think for everyone who had the horrible things to say or jumped off the Mike Norvell bandwagon after Saturday or after the last 2 weeks, they would be all the way right back on.
It would be. And I think 5-2 after that 7-game stretch would be a dream scenario for Florida State. If you look at it from a perspective coming into the year, this series has been a lot of fun. Roberto alluded to a couple of the games. 2010, who can forget Hopkins with the kick? 2012, what a game from EJ Manuel. The Noles are down, I think, like 2 touchdowns in that one, and it's a barn burner at the end, like 49-37 or something in that ballpark, if I remember correctly, where it was just a ton of points. You take the over on that day. Of course, 2013, who could forget what Jameis Winston, Berto, what you guys did to them there. You took their souls. That's going to always be one of my favorite memories of Florida State Clemson for the rest of my life.
Loudest place I've ever played in, by the way.
They were trying to break the decibel level, I think, record for at the time. They got close.
Yep.
Didn't last that long though.
You know what I remember though about that game? I was sitting on the 10-yard line, like 10 rows up, and they're getting loud right on this 3rd down when Florida State gets the ball. It was Berto. It was right after Joyner. You guys got a fumble right early on. Clemson gets the ball. You guys get the fumble. FSU's first offensive possession, they come out, and the crowd's trying to get loud, and Devontae Freeman is pumping the crowd up from the running back position. He's asking them to get louder and louder. And then Jameis hits Kelvin in the Benjamin corner, and he just goes sky high for the ball. And on that day, I'm not going to repeat the words because this is a family-friendly podcast. I looked over to this Clemson fan next to me wearing a WWE title belt, and I said, "You are blanked." And I knew in that moment, like it was over. Like it was Joyner then hits Taj Boyd in the backside, fumble, scoop and score, or whatever it was. And the route was on. That will always be an incredible memory. 2014, talked to Carlos Williams a couple weeks ago at a coffee shop here in town. And he goes, that's going to be one of my favorite memories as a Seminole when he ran it in the Sean McGuire game. The oh my God, we got the ball back game. Yes. The game where Carlos stole Roberto's chance to win it in overtime.
I know.
And then
but we won. We won. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. But what about the games after that, guys? Like 15 was unbelievable with, Dalvin Cook first play of the game, hitting that big run, and Clemson holds on. And then the next year, I wish we had brought Freddie Stevenson on this pod as a guest, because he will tell you he did not block that kid in the back on Dalvin's run, and we should have beat Deshaun Watson and Clemson. They had him. They had him beat. They had him beat.
And that Clemson team doesn't win the title if you do, because that was their first title year.
Right. And night games against Clemson at Doak have been special. They have been. They're going to be special. I think Florida State will be ready to play this weekend. I really do. And like Berto said, if you're not ready for Clemson, if you can't get hyped to play Clemson, you got a problem. And so this will be a lot of fun. So let's spend about 5 minutes here, wrap up the show. Curt, how do you think FSU can best attack this Clemson defense?
I think in some ways it will be similar to what they did against LSU, just from a standpoint of lots of max protect, having extra blockers, knowing how good that line is, and you're going to need more people to get the passing game going. I think the thing is, the Clemson secondary is not as bad as they were in the Wake Forest game. They were without a few starters in that game, but I do think they might be the weakness of that defense, and exploitable, especially, if the receivers pick it back up. The receivers need to have a game like they did in those first stretch. They need to have an LSU or a Louisville or just really any game except for the NC State game. Just they've had quite a few good ones. I mean, the big Johnny Wilson game, but obviously he's going to be hard to guard no matter what. Florida State has to run the ball on at times to kind of keep Clemson honest. But I think a heavy dose of running on first down and probably getting behind the chains, especially if they're not especially creative runs, I mean, is not a recipe for success. You're not going to have a lot of success if you're behind the chains. And I mean, defensively, I think pressuring DJ, that Clemson offensive line doesn't blow me away. I think DJ's been better. I'm still not convinced he's great. I still think he is capable of making errors. I mean, he's 15 touchdowns, 2 picks this year, but not the toughest schedule he's gone against. So I don't know. I mean, keep the crowd invested would be a big deal. I mean, like, that crowd's going to be working in your favor. Give them a reason to stay engaged, to stay loud, to stay affecting the game. Because truthfully, Clemson has not played in an atmosphere like at all this year. I mean, they played at Georgia Tech, which was in the Superdome, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and they played, I guess, at Wake Forest kind of, but I know there was a big Clemson contingent there. So this will be by far the most hostile atmosphere they've played this year.
Oh yeah, Wake Forest isn't going to get loud. What do they hold? Like 40,000 people?
Maybe.
I think like 31.
I think St. Thomas Aquinas is a bigger stadium.
I mean,
I mean, it goes to show that this will be a test for Clemson in that regard. And I mean, like you said, I mean, this Florida State team's better, and you almost won there last year. So, like, I think, I mean, Jordan Travis bounce back would be a big deal. I think that's going to be darn near essential. Just he was definitely forcing the issue in the second half, and so yeah, I mean, if Jordan looks like he did for the first number of games, FSU will have a chance.
Roberto, give me some keys to this game for Florida State. What are you looking for?
I mean, with the full defensive line for Clemson's coming in, I think we're gonna have to start off like Curt said, a lot like the LSU game. I think Jordan's gonna have to get it out quick, under 2.5 seconds. Let the receivers make plays, but also build rhythm. Right, start exposing the weak Clemson secondary early on, because I saw a stat where the scoring difference, we're ranked 48th in the country with like 15.7 points in the first half, and Clemson has like 14 and we're ranked 48th, they're ranked 57th, and then in the second half they score like 23 points, but also they haven't really played that good of opponents, and they haven't played in a hostile environment like FSU. So if we can keep it close in the first half and make it a 4-quarter game, I think that's all we want, right? Take it to the fourth quarter, minimize the mistakes we've made in the last 2 games. We know if we minimize those mistakes, we can beat this team, and just have it till the end. That's all we can ask for, right? And it's football. It's sometimes some people are going to make plays. We just want to see a great game, a good environment, really sound technical football, and let the guys play, right? I hope the refs aren't flag happy. Let them play, make the right calls. Obviously, that's in the hands of the refs. But if we have a game that takes it to the fourth quarter and, a showdown to the end, I think, that's all we can ask for. And it's a FSU team that can really beat this Clemson team. That's what Vegas is saying. That's what we've been seeing. Why is Clemson's why is the spread so low? There's something in the air that people are seeing from FSU. I think this is going to be a big statement win if Florida State pulls it through, and I'm just going to be glad that I'll be in Tallahassee to witness it all.
It's going to be a lot of fun, guys, without a doubt. And, this Clemson team struggled against Boston College for a half, maybe even 2.5 quarters, into the third quarter. And, yeah, there's a look-ahead game. That's obvious. Yeah, you just came off a physical win against NC State, and so that was naturally going to be probably a tough spot at night at Chestnut Hill. Red bandana game, I believe, as well for the Eagles. And so they played hard. But for Florida State, it's going to come down to third downs being able to continue drives and then getting off the field on third down. And against Clemson, their secondary leaves you one-on-one often. They trust their DBs. They want opposing offenses to make plays because they do focus so much on getting pressure with that front seven. I'm not sure how Clemson's going to scheme this thing up. They'll probably defensively kind of poke Florida State a little bit and prod and see if they can get pressure with the front four, or if they have to bring more and try and drop some guys into coverage to mess with Jordan Travis. I'm sure that's part of the plan. For FSU, you're going to have to win some one-on-one battles. The receivers are going to have to make plays. Wilson's going to have to make a big play. The reason when I went back and watched the Wake game against Clemson, their receivers were making one-on-one plays down the field. That's what it's going to take. Jordan's going to have to make some guys miss and pick up some scramble yards. I do think you're going to have to diversify your rushing attack this week, because I don't believe you can just line up and run the ball on Clemson. I think they're going to probably shut it down, especially if Ward is out. So can you get some motion? Can you get some interesting packages in to try and mess with Clemson's eye discipline? And can you get Jordan Travis to use his legs to be effective in this one? You're probably going to have to roll him out a couple times because of the way Clemson can pressure. You're going to have to be creative on offense to move the football, and you're going to have to win one-on-ones. And then defensively, we've talked about it. Guys like DJU has been decent. He's been better this year than he looked last year, but he's not a world beater by any means. You got to get off the field on third down. Don't let Clemson extend drives. Their receiving core is good, not great. This isn't the same Clemson receivers that they've had in the past, where they had first rounders all over the place. And Shipley's a good player. I really do believe that he makes that offense what it is when it's going. They are finding ways. They use him a lot like McCaffrey, where it's out of the backfield, throw him the ball, run him some routes, hand him the ball off. And he beat Florida State last year. He was really good for them. And so that's going to be a key there. But I like what you guys said. Take it into the fourth quarter, keep the crowd engaged. You guys haven't, Florida State hasn't caused too many turnovers that have been impactful. And when they do that, I think they have a good chance to pull something off. And if there's ever been a time for a special teams play to come through, this is the week to do it. I mean, Florida State's come up big on special teams in big games, right? Like LSU, they did it against UNC. Couple of years, they've blocked some punts. I do think this week they're going to be emphasizing some special teams in practice. Mike Norvell has something up his sleeve. I have a feeling, it's in my bones. I don't know if Florida State will win. I hope they win. I think they got a shot to win. And if they do, what a statement win for this program, as both Roberto and Curt have said. I mean, it changes everything from recruiting to how people nationally view you, to how that program can view the rest of the season and what the goals are going forward. This is massive. You got a bye week too, by the way, right after it. So this is the time. Do you guys want to give predictions? Is anybody want to do that, or you want to hold off until later in the week?
I'll give my prediction.
You go ahead.
24-27. Florida State.
You got Noles by 3. Okay. Curt, are you ready for something like that? Or do you want to give a couple keys that you think have to go well for FSU to win it?
I'm going to go Clemson close. If I had to put a score in it, I'd probably say around what I did last week. I mean, I think last week for the NC State game, I said 24-21 NC State. I'd pick around the same area probably. I think it'll trend towards low scoring with what we've seen from the FSU defense recently, as well as obviously Clemson's defense. And it'll be, I said last week that I thought FSU would have a chance to win it. I was right. I said it was going to be a low scoring. FSU would have a chance to win it. I was right. I think that could very well be the case again. We'll have to see if they can finish the drill this time.
I'm going to go Noles 24-23. Ryan Fitzgerald kicks the game winner.
Love it.
It has that every week now. You've been thinking that every week now.
I'm going to keep saying it until it happens.
This is the week to do it.
This is it right here. All right, gentlemen. I think that was a pretty good show. 7:30, ABC, Florida State, number 4 Clemson, back in tally. It is a night game at Doak. It is what you live for if you're a player. It's what the fans want. Hope you guys travel safely into Tallahassee. Those of you that are coming, we've got a lot of great stuff coming up this week on the Osceola. Curt's got some cool stuff planned. A lot of podcasts coming this week from the rest of our crew. And then, of course, Friday, make sure you come out to Tally and Finn and check us out on our meet and greet. And we'll have a pregame show there live on YouTube as well in College Town. So that'll be a fun time. 5 o'clock, I believe, is when it starts. 6 o'clock, we'll have our show. So come on out, have a drink. We've got some pizza and some food for you as well, right next to Kusha's, and should be a good time as Florida State prepares to take on the Clemson Tigers. All right, boys, good job. You can catch us on Apple. You can catch us on Spotify and on YouTube. For Roberto Aguayo and Curt Weiler, I'm Ariya Massoudi, and you've been listening to First and Nole.